I'm Amanda.
And I'm Allison.
Welcome to another episode of Simply Sapphic. Hi, everybody, and welcome to our next episode of Simply Sapphic.
Yay!
Yay! We have the fabulous Syd of OutWellness here. And for those that are just joining us, like, hooray, yay, welcome to Simply Sapphic. We're so pumped to have you here. And if you are a returning listener, please give us like a good 5-star rating or subscribe to our YouTube or just like anything that we post. Leave a comment, leave a heart. We would love to hear from you.
Say hi on social media.
Say hi on social media. We've been answering audience questions, like folks that have thoughts or things about topics. So if you have one, like, please, like, you can literally DM us, or you can go on our website and sign up for our newsletter and like contact us through our website and all of that good stuff. And our newsletter's super cute because now we're starting to put, like, Amanda's putting like what we're reading and like what we're watching. And so the book I put on this recent one is Beautiful and Really Sad. So get your tissues.
Yes.
Yep, there we go.
Yay.
Cute.
Awesome.
Okay, so Syd, do you want to tell us who you are and what you're about and like all the cool stuff you're doing in Austin?
Yeah, I'll try my best.
All right, let's do it.
I'm Syd. My pronouns are they, them. I am a physical therapist and the owner of OutWellness in Austin, Texas. We are a queer health and wellness center dedicated to creating a safe space, mainly for trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming folks to access health and wellness services that have otherwise seemed unattainable for this specific population. I think the coolest thing that we do, every weekend we do trans masc and trans femme workouts. And there's kind of two purposes to that. One is that each workout is designed to build muscle in areas that folks who identify in those populations would want. So typically the trans masc workout is a little bit more like back and chest focused, and then the trans femme workouts are more hip and side ab focused. But the second part of it, which is the coolest part of it, is the community that we get to build around that. And so it's just been really fun to build community and create safe spaces and do all the cool things.
Which I love, because I feel like when you think about like gym culture, you don't, like, the first word that comes to my brain is like not community. It feels very like isolated and you're just here to get like ripped and like, I don't know, aggressively see some bros and then like leave. I don't know. Okay, clearly I'm not a gym person, but that's just like, I don't know, that's kind of the myth that I have built up.
I mean, it's not the most untrue thing, and like a lot of times we do get people who come in and they're like, oh, we get to talk to people while we're in here, or like sometimes people will like take their headphones out and just like chat with the folks who are there. And so it's, I mean, first and foremost, the community is everything, and everything else that we do is really cool. I do a lot of pre and post-op gender affirming surgeries, surgery stuff. I don't perform the surgeries.
And Syd is also a surgeon.
We're all very impressed.
But I do PT pre and post-op for those. And the community that we've built is so cool because you see people on all parts of the spectrum. So you see people who are pre-op, very soon post-op, and then like very far post-op, and so people can see themselves in other people in the community, which is just like so cool.
That's awesome. And I remember when we first met you, we talked about you also like offered like financial classes.
So
like
we're huge believers in holistic wellness, and I think the term holistic has maybe some what I would consider like woo-woo tendencies, right? Like when people think of holistic, they're like, okay, so like you're gonna read my chakras and like you're gonna tell me about my aura, which I am
like
I am not knocking that at all. That is super valid. But when we talk about holistic wellness, we're really talking about whole person wellness. And so obviously, just like with my background and what I do, there's a lot of emphasis on body wellness, but that's not the only pillar of wellness that there is. And so yeah, like especially after the election, there was a big push for self-defense classes. So we added those in. We have quarterly financial literacy workshops, which are just designed. I know a queer financial planner who works specifically with the queer community, and it's designed for people, for everybody. But like, I think queer people have less privilege in having generational knowledge passed down because of relationships with family and things like that. And so really she's there to be like, this is how you pay off credit card debt. This is the way that I would do it. This is how you can start saving. Like you know, it's just very, I don't want to say basic, but it's very like things that other people probably have access to if they have access to their family. And so just trying to give people all of the information. We do queer sex ed every month.
That's awesome.
One of the last ones that we did was dating while trans, and like how to promote safety, like in having those conversations, and obviously consent. We do kink workshops and talking about like, if you want to start navigating that, how do you do it safely? How do you find safe people to do it with? And so like, I think it's important that we understand that wellness is not defined by one thing. And so we're trying to provide all of these other things so that people can like kind of pick and choose what they want to do, but feel like we're offering a lot more than just like a workout.
Yeah. I mean, you've kind of like, when you say wellness and when people hear wellness, they think about like physical health, but wellness, it's not just fitness. It's not just physical health. Wellness is like your overall joy. And so I love that, like how freaking awesome that you're like, no, wellness is also finance. It's also sex. It's also how you see yourself. You know, it's also health.
How you build relationships.
How you build relationships.
Yep.
Well, it's like, as a gym girly, like I literally go into the gym and I'm so uncomfortable if somebody approaches me, because it's normally like somebody's hitting on me or something.
Yeah.
Because I used to go to like shout out ABP, Austin Bouldering Project.
Totally.
But like the amount of people that would come up to me when my ex was with me, like we were there holding hands, and people would still be like, hi, I just like thought you were really cute. And I was like, okay.
Like cis men.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so like
a queer person would never. They would pine for decades.
Yes, from a distance. They would write poetry. They'd be like, I see her climbing. And I wish she'd climb into my heart.
But I mean, like your gym sounds so awesome, because it's a space where I feel like you're not only building community, but everybody's learning from each other in that community too.
And it's really cool because we get a lot of first-time gym goers. So people who are like, I've been thinking about doing this. I haven't felt safe to go into this space because of, that's a huge one. Another huge one is the locker room situation.
Oh, because like when I go to the gym, I don't go into the bathroom.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I've been yelled at in bathrooms in Texas.
and I mean, especially now it's even more insane. Right.
Yeah.
And so, we get that a lot, and we really do, like, the backbone of what we do is community. And the people who buy into that are the people who like thrive in our space, really. Yeah,
that's so exciting. And okay, what started this for you? Like, what was the moment? What was the spark? Have you always had it in your brain? What was it?
So I was an athlete my whole life, and so going into college, I knew I wanted to do something medical, and I actually was pre-med when I went into college.
Oh, wow.
And like for pre-med, you just have to get a bunch of observation hours. Like, I can't even remember, but it's like a big number. And so I was at a hospital one day to observe, not like
To do the surgeries?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just want to be clear, I don't do the surgeries. That's like an important that's an important takeaway. I don't do the surgeries.
Please no.
Yeah, disclaimer.
Damn, I think we're gonna need you to leave, because we were trying to get a surgeon on.
Oh yeah, I definitely misled you. Yeah.
We'll take the cookies back.
Yeah, no more cookies for me. But there was one day where the doctor was like, oh, you can't be with me this day, but I was like already there, and he was like, oh, you can just go shadow PT. And for pre-med or for med school, it doesn't really matter, like you can get the hours however. And so I was like, okay, cool, like hours are hours. And then I was like, oh, this is way better.
Oh, this man
I was
changed
like,
your life.
this is way cooler. Yeah, like we just get more time with patients, and we get to see them progress because we see them more than once usually. And so it's just like a really cool thing. And so I shifted at that point and went to grad school. And there was just like this underlying feeling, and if I'm being honest, I'm still like processing it in therapy, so I'll tell you what I know now.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Shelly.
We love it.
But like I've always had this underlying feeling of like not belonging, and for a long time I thought it was just because I was in a bigger body. And so I played tennis, which is very stereotypically thin and white, and you know there's like a certain type of person when you say tennis, like and I didn't fit that mold. And so I had a really hard time like fitting into our uniforms in college and things like that. And then I went straight to grad school and had similar feelings. Like we had to do research to be able to graduate because it's a doctorate program. And exclusion criteria for all of the research was if you had a BMI over 30.
What?
All of it. And we were required to participate in each other's research studies to be able to graduate. And so they literally had to come up with other things that I could do because my BMI was over 30.
Whoa.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And so, like, for a long time, I just was like, oh, well, I'm just fat. And, like, that's fine. But, like, the people around me just weren't, right? Like, I played college tennis. I went straight into a profession that is, I will put in big quotation marks, fit. And so, like, it's just this culture of thinness. But I think my queerness played a big part in that, too. Like, I didn't have a queer space. I didn't have a space that I could explore my queerness for a really long time. After grad school, I spent 2 years at like a pretty typical outpatient PT clinic. Like if you've ever had PT, it was probably very similar to that experience. And I did my residency and my fellowship there. And it's just like, I had a pretty good experience, if I'm being totally honest, but like, again, like nobody was fat, nobody was queer. I just was like finding that I felt like an outlier. And so that was like my personal experience. And then I also was like, my community is not being treated well, right? Like people are not educated about gender affirming surgeries. People aren't educated about how to use pronouns correctly. Like all of these things that are gender affirming care, they're just not doing. And so once I finished my fellowship, I was very burnt out. And I was like, I need to change. But two, I just was like, I think I can do it better. So I was really lucky. I have a garage gym. And so I just was like, I guess I'll just see if it works. Like I was like, I have this garage gym anyway. And actually my dad was the one who said this to me, and I will never forget it. He was like, the worst thing that could happen is that you quit this job and you fail and then you get another PT job.
Damn.
Like he just was like, that's literally the worst case scenario.
Thanks, Dad. Yeah. Honestly though, but
and that perspective was really important for me. Because it helped me take that leap. And so so for a little over 3 years, we were out of my single car garage gym.
Wow.
Building community in my driveway on the weekends.
Incredible.
If
CrossFitters can do it, like the queers can.
And they did it happily. Like
amazing.
In the rain, I was like, we'll cancel this workout. They're like, no.
They're like, we want to dance.
They're like, let's go. Yeah. So that was also different, but a very cool way to create community. And also like my neighbors were super great. Like I was playing music at all hours of all days and nobody ever said a word.
Wow.
And this was here in Austin?
Yeah.
This is fabulous.
That's rare.
It's like South Central Austin.
Wow.
And my neighbors were super cool. Never had a complaint, anything like that. They just kind of let me do my thing.
That's amazing.
And and then in June, so it's been almost a year.
Wow. We
moved into 1,900 square feet, which has allowed us to grow quite a bit, which has been really, really fun.
I love that your neighbors were like, let the queers like work out.
Not
like,
only was that the case, but I actually have like direct neighbors who have 2 small kids, and the kids would come over and work out with the trans masks on Sunday mornings sometimes.
We
like,
love it.
Wow.
Yeah, like it wasn't just that they were like tolerating it. Like they were like, yeah, let my kids join in, which like it heals a part of my inner child, because I didn't even know about queerness until I went to college and met queer people. Like there was no representation anywhere. I had never met an out queer person, I guess.
Yeah.
And so like the fact that these kids are like under 5, I don't really know kids' ages.
They were small.
They're like small
than me.
They're small but talking. I don't know.
Like I think they can use the bathroom independently.
Yeah. I don't think they're wearing a diaper, but I don't know. And their parents were like, yeah, there's 10 trans people over there. Let's go hang out.
That's allyship.
That is allyship.
But it's just,
and that's like healing.
People being people, right?
Yeah.
I feel like people get so locked in whatever's going on the internet that they translate it to real life. And it's like bridging the gap and getting people in community with each other, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of whatever you identify as, getting people together. We're all just people and we're all really nice.
Yeah, and I think it was just really cool.
Yeah.
Like the parents were like, "Oh my god, like is it okay?" And I was like, "For sure." And like people ate it up, and like it was super fun. So I don't miss a ton about the single car garage days.
For sure. I mean, I'm sure like a facility with air conditioning is awesome.
Yeah, and I think the people participating in the workout also appreciate that.
Yeah. they're like that was fun, but we love this.
Yeah, exactly right. So so yeah, it's been a little bit of a journey, but like my personal experience was just like I've really craved this like sense of belonging, and I created it selfishly so that I could have it.
But I feel like that's where a lot of things like this start. Like you identified a need in your own life, and it's so awesome to see that like other people have that need as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think sometimes we can go through life being like, I think I'm the only one that feels this way.
Yeah.
And so like you were brave enough and you took that step forward.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's been super, super fun, and just like all the cool people that I've been able to meet, like even like stuff like this, you know, like I would have never been able to do this, right?
Yeah.
So it brings a lot more meaning to an already pretty meaningful job as a physical therapist, but it brings a whole new meaning. Like I saw a person the other day who was like 10 days post-op top surgery, but just like wanted reassurance that they didn't have infection, you know, like, so it's just like, I just like get to do really meaningful things often, and it's really, really cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I know when we first met up and like we're getting to know each other, you had mentioned like how you define fitness and like your view, because I think a barrier and when entering into spaces like this is like we have a very like heteronormative idea of like what is fitness, why are we pursuing this, why are we in these spaces, and I'd love to hear a little bit like what is that for you?
Yeah, and I mean, this is also like something that is very like deeply ingrained in all of us, right? So like when I say this, I personally still also struggle with this like for myself.
Yeah.
But we really do try to define movement as literally any type of movement that feels good for your body. And that can change day to day, that can change hour to hour. But I think we have to give ourselves grace, because a lot of times people will be like, oh, well, I can't do this CrossFit style workout, so I might as well not move at all. Like we have this very like all or nothing mentality when it comes to movement. And I see that a lot. Like people will call me and they'll be like, I want to come work out, I want to come 6 days a week. And I'm like, cool, when was the last time you worked out? They're like, never. You're like, right, okay, cool. That's so fun that you want to come 6 days a week, but like let's start with one and let's see how you feel. And it's a similar concept where I mean, I think post-op is a great example to at least start with, where I'm like, can you walk for 10 minutes a day? That would be dope. And that's considered movement, right? Like we even talk about like, so there's this crazy correlation, I guess it's not crazy, but between queerness and like chronic illness, chronic pain, chronic disability. And so I actually treat a lot of those types of things too, just because of the overlap with queerness. And like we build movement routines that you can do in bed. We build movement, like we have like on a high flare day, this is what we do. On a medium flare day, this is what we do. Like, and so we talk about movement in a way of like, sometimes a lot of times the goal is never to be able to do a CrossFit workout, right? Like that's like so far above like what we want to be able to do. But we also talk about movement in terms of function with it, which I think is really important. So we don't talk, like when I talk about goals with people, they're like, well, I want to lose weight. And I'm like, heard. Why do you want to lose weight? What do you want to do? You want to be able to walk your dog for a little bit longer? Do you want to be able to play with kids? Are you going on a trip that you're worried about walking, like the amount of walking you're gonna have to do? Like, what is it? And then like, let's work into that. Because a lot of times people find that when they take away I just want to lose weight, they're actually way more functional than they think they are.
Oh, wow.
And we just have this like standard, especially in AFAB folks, of I need to lose weight, I need to do cardio. And I'm like, you can also just really lift really heavy if you want. that's totally cool too. And so yeah, we're trying to change the narrative a bit to make people feel better about movement.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
mean, I just think about like what you see on the internet, like when you're like, oh, let's do it, and it's just like people like, you're here to get built.
Yeah.
And like you have to be this size, this type of way. Your gym has to be dark, moody.
Yep.
You gotta have your big headphones on. And
Mm-hmm.
if this isn't your whole life, like if you're not spending 6 hours, then like fitness isn't for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that leaves queer people so isolated, and like that's just like another barrier that like prevents queer people from living like long and happy lives that they can thrive in.
And I think another thing, and I really actually struggled with this when I first opened.
You mentioned that there is a correlation between chronic illness and queerness, and that's not the topic of this, what we're talking about, but I'm like so curious if you know the details about that.
So all of this is anecdotal because there's no research, because we are straight cis men.
Yep.
So
R.I.P.
Yeah. So it's anecdotal, but what I found is that there's a big correlation between queerness and neurodivergence, and then there's a correlation between neurodivergence and some of this chronic pain, chronic illness, especially something like hypermobility or Ehlers-Danlos or something like that. And so then queerness and chronic disability get this overlap because of the overlap with neurodivergence. And I think there are other things involved. Like, I think a big part of it is trauma that we take on, and having to hide or having to overcome all of these obstacles, like just the added stress, right? I think that's a big part of it. But there's actually no research to suggest any of this, so it's all just based on like what I know.
You know what I think there might be research on, and TikTok is not research, but I saw this video that was talking about like cis women in relationships, and it was like it was more of like a story that they were telling, and it was like, my mom like gave so much of herself, had to hide, like keep it all together, and then once like all the kids moved out of the house, now she has breast cancer, right? And so they're thinking that anxiety and like not actually releasing your emotions and like putting all of these things through that like I experience as a queer person, and I have chronic illnesses, and so like yeah, it is really interesting, and it, like ties to the importance of long-term wellness and being like active and making sure that you're taking conscious, intentional steps toward taking care of yourself.
Well, and there are studies that talk about stress, how stress
Yes.
dramatically impacts the body, and people that find themselves in certain intersections experience more stress. Like, you know, like our trans folks in Texas, the amount of stress that they're under 24/7, just like being alive, is having an impact on their body, you know, and it's just also sad that we don't have enough research about queer people on this stuff.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of it. I mean, I think all of it is part of it. And yeah, our trans folks in Texas is just...
It's disappointing.
I mean, it's disappointing at best.
Yeah.
It's disappointing at best, but
Yeah.
it's like, why is this even a thing that we have to deal with?
I went to drop a card last week at for when they were hearing the bathroom bill, and I like just heard like a little bit of the testimony, and it was horrible. So like when you go and drop a card, you click on the bill and it will tell you, like it says like this is what the bill is, and the bill was described. I wish I took a picture of it, but the bill was described as to ensure that there is safety in private spaces. And then in all of the testimony that I heard, and then I like asked some other people who stayed a little bit longer, they never actually mentioned trans people. Like it's never, they're like, we cannot have men in women's bathrooms. That's the language that they use. They never talk about trans people. It's so crazy. We could do a whole episode on
Oh,
that.
I'm
yeah,
sure.
for sure.
We could do a whole season.
We could
Yeah.
really, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, no, I totally agree. And there's also even a little bit of research that talks about minority stress, which is even more specific to what we're talking about, which is minorities incur more stress than their non-marginalized counterparts, essentially.
Yeah.
Which anybody who is a minority knows. But the thing about research is that like it's important to have this very basic stuff so that like we can build on it, right? So like there has to be research that says yes, this thing is real. That way like they can hopefully build on that research and like find some actually meaningful conclusions, you know?
Yeah. So if any of our listeners are interested in doing this kind of research,
Yeah.
you are needed. So if it's been bubbling around in your brain, do it.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, totally.
Since our podcast is like also mostly like helping people that are like kind of new to coming out and new to finding themselves, I'm curious like what advice you have for folks who are like, all right, I'm fresh out and I'm thinking about coming into this space. Like, what thoughts or encouragements do you have for them?
Man, this is so fun. This is a really fun question. So I came out as a lesbian when I was 18.
Good for you. I'm jealous.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate that. And then I came out at like probably 26 as non-binary. And then I guess I like kind of came out as trans like not that long ago. But like, who really knows? You know, it's like all kind of a spectrum and like whatever. Yeah. So I've had like various coming outs in my life. And my honest advice is to find community as quickly as you can. And whatever that means to you. Like, to me, it was finding other people who like working out, who look, well, I know this now. I actually was like, oh my God, I'm so attracted to trans masc people. And then I was like, oh, I'm not attracted to them. I want to be them. Okay. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. It took a lot of therapy to figure that out. But like the trans masc community was really important to me in like my journey of self-discovery. And so I think finding community is super important. The other thing that I did, which you know, I don't know. I did drag actually.
Incredible.
I did drag, and it was like a whole thing. Like I had backup dancers, I had a choreographer, like I did like the whole thing.
Damn, like the whole thing.
Yeah, I'll show y'all pictures. Please. But I did it in like really high femme drag, and I was like, I want to know what femininity feels like if it's not being pushed upon me, like if I fully choose it. And I was like, okay, cool. I hate it, but I did it. And so that was like another kind of like defining moment. But again, like I was centered in community. I had backup dancers who were both non-binary. I had a trans drag mentor. Like I was surrounded by people who like really understood my experience. It was the first time I played with my pronouns, and it was a really safe space for me to do that. And so I've been insanely lucky that I've had, every time I've come out has been very nice and easy for me. But like finding that community and finding that safety is, I think, the most important thing.
I mean, finding that safety so that you can go and try things on, right? Like similar to you, not in drag, that sounds awesome. But like, I was like, you know what? I think I want to experiment with like how I present. So I tried on different pronouns as well. And then I did come back to she, her. But I'm glad that I tried different ways of expressing myself. I tried different like makeup styles and different like clothing styles. I was like, I cut all my hair off and I was like, I'm going to try and be masc. And I was like, this doesn't quite feel right to me. And it's funny, like I'm finding that I'm like coming back into femininity as I define it. Because when I first came out, I was like, fuck being a woman. Like, I don't want anything to do with that. And now I'm like, oh, being a woman doesn't mean I have to be somebody's wife and I have to pump out children. It's whatever I want to define it as. And so now even just this month, I'm already I was talking to Allison, I was like, let's go like shopping. Like, I want to go to Target and I want to go and find like feminine clothes that like feel like the kind of femininity that I want. Yeah.
Gender affirming.
Yes.
Imagine. And that's on gender affirming care.
Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you and I had that moment because I started like, it took really Amanda kind of opening up the space for me to start using like fully they, them pronouns.
I'm so sorry. I thought you took a leaf off of one of our fake plants
and started munching
and then
on
ate it.
You were like, that looks delicious. Crunch.
So there's cookies.
Yes.
We have cookies.
They're
not eating leaves.
Yes, they're not eating leaves.
This is how they got me here.
Yep.
It's true. We actually led a trail of them.
Yeah, we did.
Very like Hansel and Gretel style.
And then they like knocked on the door and we were like, how strange.
We're like, do you want to come do a podcast episode?
how did those fresh baked handmade cookies get all the way over there?
No idea how the butter was browned and how the chocolate was room temperature. That's insane.
Incredible. Okay, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, like, in terms of like the importance of community, right? Like, it took meeting you and feeling the space to actually feel like brave enough to be like, I'm non-binary, like they, them. Like, I don't have to keep the she in there to keep people comfortable, or to like, yeah, to really keep people comfortable and to be like, they're just gonna misgender me and everyone's gonna call me she and I just gotta deal with it. Like,
I'm just gonna say, you look so much like a they them. It's wild.
Thank you. And I feel like a they them.
You look so much like a they them.
Could you imagine she her version of this? It's always felt like disembodied. Like, whenever it was used, I felt like they were talking about somebody different.
Well, it was crazy because when I met you, you were she, they. And then I would hang out with all of your friends, like all their friends that they had known since college, and they'd be like, she, her, she, her, she, her. And I remember getting in the car, coming back after hanging out with them, and I was like, why don't you just fully go they, them? And you're like, oh, I don't know, like, it's fine. And I was like, okay. And then, like, I think like a couple weeks later, like, I dropped it, right? I was like, whatever you want to do. And then you're like, I'm gonna go by they, them.
Well, yeah, because I sat there and I was like, why don't I? Like, the people in my life love me and like they're gonna be so down, but I was so afraid. I was like, I don't know why I felt like I had to please people with it. I was like, it's gonna happen.
And that's, I think, the really beautiful thing about finding community is that, like, so my full name is Sydney, and then I started going by Syd, I don't know, 2 years ago or something like that, before I ever changed my pronouns. And my community was like, I saw you change your name. Should I start calling you different pronouns? And I was like, yeah. Actually, please.
Yeah.
And then, like, kind of similar with this, like, I cut my hair recently, like, I did some things, and they were like, should we start using masculine pronouns? Like, how does this work? And I was like, yeah, we can try it. And so, like, you know, it's just like this safety, like you were saying, like the safety of being like, I don't actually know if I'm gonna like this, but it's cool that I have a place that I can try it, and then if I tell them I hate it, they'll never do it again, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, like, just having people who, like, you can kind of play with, and who, like, know the truest version of you. Like, when you were like, hey, what do you think about they, them pronouns? And then they started thinking about it, and they were like, I think I kind of like it, right? Like, having people who can, like, see the truest version of yourself and who can kind of be like, have you considered?
Yeah. Or even just being like, do you know this is a safe space for that to happen?
Yeah.
You know?
And naming that is really important. And we have a lot of people who, we introduce ourselves at the beginning of every workout with name and pronouns. And we have people who have tried on different names like every week for a month.
I love that.
And it's just so fun. Like, like, I just get to be like, what do I get to call you this week? Like, this is so cool.
Yes.
And it's cool. Yeah, it's cool also that we have a space where people feel like they can do that because, you know.
When you take a step back, when you enter the queer community and you're like, oh my God, it's going to be a huge deal. It's going to be a huge deal. Just remember, like, no, like, whatever feels good for you, like, whatever's going to make you confident in your body, it's also okay to change your mind. Like, my middle name is Miles. I literally had my friends call me Miles for a couple weeks. And then I was like, that doesn't quite sound right. Let's go back to Amanda.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, it's okay. Like, once you name something, you can take it back. Like, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
And I do think there's something to be said for chosen family, which I think is, we've been kind of dancing around for a minute. But like, I have found that, like, my chosen family has been wonderful. And it is literally the easiest thing in the world for them to be like, cool, your pronouns change. Cool, your name changed. This is not an issue. I have the privilege of also being really close to my family. And even my family has been like, this is maybe a little bit of an adjustment, but like totally fine and good, you know? And so I think it really comes down to, like, the people who love you love the truest version of you.
Yeah.
And that is an ever changing thing. And they just want to know, like, for a long time, I didn't share with my family about any of my gender stuff, and they were finally like, we just want to know what's going on. Like
just let us in.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't have it like fully formed. Like, I don't really know. And they're like, we don't even care. Like, just tell us what you do know. And it was very eye-opening for me because, like, I told them and they were like, just relieved to know what was going on. They were just relieved to know, like, what I was kind of grappling with. And yeah, so I think a big takeaway is the people who truly love you love the truest version of you, whatever that means in that moment.
Defined by you.
Right.
Because I think like I have the opposite experience. I don't talk to my family very much anymore. Me coming out was incredibly traumatic, and they don't. I will never talk to them about my gender stuff, probably ever, because my truest version of me is by their definition,
right? Because
it's by God's. And so I think that's like an important, like, your truest definition of you comes from you, and your community's here to support that.
Absolutely. Like, I think that's a really important point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we kind of keep going back into, we're brand new to this, like, we're like, I'm out, I'm queer. I'm curious for like folks that have made that realization and they're not really maybe feeling comfortable in their bodies. Like when we first talked, you had this like great definition on like what's the difference between dysmorphia and stuff like that. Do you mind kind of touching on those things?
Yeah, I totally. So we talk a lot about dysphoria in the in the trans community, just because that's a very common thing. And so dysphoria is when what you see or what people experience you as externally is not what you feel internally. And so a lot of times that's why people get gender affirming surgery, right? Is so that the mismatch goes away. They can feel more aligned with how they feel on the inside. Dysmorphia is when you see a distorted view of yourself in the mirror. So it would be like you look in the mirror and like your hips, in the way you perceive it, is that your hips are extremely wide, and then people look at you and they're like, it's actually not reality. So they're very closely related but not the same thing. And dysmorphia, I will say, I see more in AFAB folks, although can happen to anybody. But I think that is much more common in AFAB folks, just because we were all conditioned to believe that we need to be a certain size and exist a certain way.
If you're not Barbie, who are you?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, those are the two main things that we see quite a bit of. I think the biggest shift for me in terms of just coming out, and be like, the first time I came out, I was like, I'm only attracted to women, I'm a lesbian. And I think that was a really hard shift for me. Well, it wasn't hard, but like a thing that was hard about it is that like we've been so conditioned to do things for the male gaze.
Yes.
And so then being like, not only do I not want the male gaze, but I also want to pursue somebody who, like, how do I exist in this world not having the male gaze? And like kind of thinking through that, I think helped with some of my body image stuff, because I was like, oh, like this is a standard that I will never fit into, first of all, right? Like it's just, I'm just getting set up for failure here. Like, so kind of grappling with that, I think, was really hard. And I think I was actually just talking to somebody about this. I know a lot of people who are like bi or pan or demi, or like somewhere like in that spectrum where cis men are not totally off their radar. And I think it's hard because when you decenter cis men from your existence, things really change. And like I think that's when I got more comfortable in like having a bigger body, when I was like, oh, queer people like me just fine. Like, you know, like the people who I want to like me like me just fine. And so I think that's a huge part of it.
The relief when I came out and I was like, fuck yes, I don't have to think about a single man ever again in my entire life, was phenomenal. I was like, thank God. And I bought like boy jeans. And I was like, work, like make it happen. It was awesome.
Well, and for me, like femininity really changed for me. Like I was talking about earlier, you know, it went from like, I have to show cleavage and like my belly button all the time and have like long hair, and like, I'm going to grow my hair back out because I'm whatever. But you know, it was like, I have to fit this body standard that I like kind of closely like I look at it and I'm like, if I try hard enough and dress hard enough and work out in the right way, I could actually be that standard. And so there was like so much pressure being in this like skinny body to like, okay, now you need to have a line. Like you're never perfect, right? And
Totally.
so yeah, when I came out, I was like, I'm gonna wear sweatshirts. And people, I put that on TikTok. I was like, I'm gonna wear a sweatshirt. Like, how crazy of me. And people were like ripping me apart. They're like, it's just a sweatshirt.
And you're like, you don't know the pressure that I've been under.
Yeah,
But it's
literally,
true. Like,
you
I
don't
was
know.
like, yeah, I was like, I felt like I had to show so much skin in order to feel like a person.
Well, when I was younger, my sisters got rid of all my clothes because I dressed too much like a tomboy. So like they were like,
they just went into your room.
yes, they redid my whole closet, and they were like, we have to yassify Allison. And so like we had to go on a whole, but like we got rid of everything because it was like too tomboy.
Oh my
like
God.
I needed to look more feminine, more girly.
That's really real. I actually just recently had this thing, and it ended up being really cool. But like I've been like, I'm totally liberated from the male gaze. Like, you know, I'm like, ugh, like I'm so great. But then I've been like toying with the idea of top surgery. Like I've been like, I would really like my chest to be flat. Can I go through surgery? Like, do I want to? And I was talking to my partner, and I was like, hey, how much notice do you need if I like really am considering top surgery? And I didn't mean it. Like I said it, and like I know how it sounds to even like say that, but like I really meant it. Like
Yeah.
I was like, hey, like it's important to me that you feel like you're like part of this, right?
No, I do this all the time with Amanda. I oscillate. I'm sometimes like, I'm thinking about it.
Yeah,
But
like
maybe I don't, but maybe
like
I do.
would you still want me if
Yes.
and they literally just were like, I don't need notice. Like
don't
it
need
would
my
be so
permission.
cool if you had top surgery scars, you know?
Yeah.
And so like it's even still like a little bit ingrained in us, right? Like our chest is a huge part of
being attracted to your, like, for your partner.
absolutely.
Yes.
And even, you know, like even, and I don't think this is true. I think this is just in my head, but like if somebody identifies as a lesbian, they probably want to date somebody with boob, right? Like, so like there's all of these things that I'm like, oh my God, but you know, like my partner is so great. It would suck if like
That was
top
the deal
surgery,
breaker.
right? You know,
Yeah.
and like their response was first of all a little bit like, do we have a relationship where you think you have to ask me that? Which I thought was interesting because we don't, but it felt really important to me to ask. And then I was like, oh, it feels important because so much of my sexuality is defined by my chest.
And by your body. Yes.
And it goes back to exactly that. Like I look back at pictures of myself, even at my college graduation, I wore a dress that was like pretty low cut. I mean, low cut for me, you know. But I wore a dress and wedges to my college graduation.
Same.
You know, like it's just crazy. But that just reminded me, that we probably had this conversation like 2 weeks ago where
Wow.
I was like, hey, what would you think? And they were like, I thought you were already kind of considering it.
You're like, I'm already kind of prepared for it.
Yeah.
In terms of like, what snacks do you need?
Yeah, I've already got the care package.
Pillows.
yeah. So, but it's just another example, right, of like how we view our bodies.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's really personal. But I do think like coming into our own and being like, what do I want my body to look like? Because I think that's been a really like taboo thing to kind of talk about because it's so closely related to dysmorphia and dysphoria. But I think it's an important question. So like when we do trans masc and trans femme workouts, the trans masc workouts are upper back and chest specific. Of course, like we do full body workouts, but they're definitely geared more towards that. Trans femme workouts are hips and abs a little bit more. And we do that because a lot of times people in those populations want specific types of bodies and like that's normal. And so I think there's like a normal level of, ooh, I would love my body to look like that. And like talking about it in a healthy way, I think is really important because then it makes people feel not alone. Like people can be like, yeah, I want my pecs to show. Right? Like that's a really common example. I want my pecs to show. That's super cool. You're gonna have to do a lot of push-ups.
Yeah.
But like we can do that. And so I think normalizing talking about that while also understanding that mental health is a huge part of that. Like I think both of those things can be true in the same breath.
So for our folks that are listening that like don't have a space like yours to go to, or like, and don't really have that built community yet, but like want to start like doing a lot of push-ups or things like that, or like exploring fitness spaces, like what do you have advice for them, or like tips and tricks, like bring a buddy? What do you got? Oh man. Yeah, if they have to go to like Planet Fitness.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I think you can find community anywhere. That is my true feeling, and it might take a little bit longer or be a little bit more of a push for you to find community in a space that's not created to build community, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. I know plenty of queer folks who are like, I am so happy at Gold's or whatever it is. Like I really do. And I think bring a buddy is a great one. I always tell people to go in. Like a lot of times, like you can go in and they'll do like a tour where they kind of show you how to use the equipment and show you the areas, so you can go in on your first day and be like, okay, I know where the locker room is. Do I want to use the locker room? Maybe, maybe not. I know generally how to use the equipment, and then you can kind of start from there. But then ask for support when you need it, right? So like you go to the gym and you're like, okay, I did leg day. I didn't know how to use this machine. What can I do if I want to use this machine next time? And kind of, I find that for my type of anxiety, planning for everything feels really good. And so I'm like, okay, what can I do to limit my anxiety of looking foolish when I'm trying to like use this machine? And then kind of working through that. Yeah. I really do still think that building community in those spaces is super important, whether that's bringing a buddy or going to one of their group classes and trying to find somebody that you connect with, or, you know, like whatever that looks like. Because I think that community is what keeps people coming back. Like people talk about, motivation versus discipline, I think are the two that they talk about quite a bit in like the fitness world. And I actually disagree. Like, I think most people, if you just ask them, would be pretty motivated by their goals, right? Like for example, I can't work out right now, but I'm pretty motivated to work out. I just can't because of things that are going on with my body. Sure. And so like, I guess my specific example is bad, but I think people can be motivated and still not do the thing. And I think community helps with that. Like I could be like, oh, I really don't want to work out today, but I know Allison is going to the gym. And I really want to chill with them today. Yeah. And so I'm just going to go and I'm just going to talk to them the whole time. And then I get there and I'm like, oh, well, they're just doing the bike. Like I could just like bike right next to them. Right. And even if that's all I do, I've now moved my body. I've chilled with a friend, and I have another positive experience in my brain of going to the gym, or going on a walk or whatever the movement is. And so I rely very heavily on community for everything. I mean, all of the workshops that we run at OutWellness too are actually community led. So there are people in our community who are like, I have this to offer. Can I bring it to OutWellness? And I'm like, cool. Yeah.
You said doors open, come on in.
Literally. Yeah. I'm like, oh, you work at Planned Parenthood as a sex educator and you want to run a monthly queer sex ed workshop for me?
Bring it.
Correct. You know? Yeah. So I think people really buy into it, and the more positive experiences that we can have with a thing, we literally change our brain chemistry. Like we literally create new neurons, new pathways in our brain that say like, oh, gym, good. And so like the more that we can do that, the easier it becomes over time.
Yeah. I've been doing this thing because I have a different gym membership from a friend, but the free weight section freaks me out because it is the most cis buff, like raw men. But so I was like,
raw, they say
they're
raw,
like they're like like they're just like grr all the time, and I'm like y'all scare me a little bit, but I'm like okay, but I was like, I need to start building like comfort there, so I just go and do my cardio there only, and then I do my weights here. And like for some reason that balance like helps me not feel so defeated than like walking in and being like, oh shit, like Chad's gonna eat me, like, you know, or something like that. Totally. And I think like, you know, just like exploring that mix can help too. Like it doesn't have to be at a gym, I think, to like just get your body moving. Like we have a friend who does improv, like they do improv dance, like that's with a bunch of queer people here in Austin.
Wait, that's so fun.
It's like called like Sparkle Dance Pop. and they do like
Sounds like I would love it.
it's like run by like a theater person.
Yeah, of
and
course.
it's like very like just get your body moving.
And I mean, like, I work with a person who does chair dance.
Great.
And literally it's virtual. You get a chair and they move that way. And so, like, I think that's a great point, is like, you don't have to be in a gym.
Yeah.
Even if you want to get strong, there are plenty of body weight things that you can do to get strong without being in a gym. So, like, if a gym is really anxiety inducing or whatever, grab a friend and do a body weight workout. Like, you can do it from your house, you can do it from anywhere. And then maybe as you get more comfortable doing the movements, then you're like, okay, maybe we can try a gym, you know?
It's interesting. I loved what you were saying earlier about like wellness as mental and physical and stuff like that. And something that I'm working on in my body, because as I get older, I'm turning 34 next month. Yeah, I'm starting to see like signs of aging.
Like ancient.
What are you trying to say?
Dusty.
Oh my God. What year were you born?
I was born in the 1900s. But like,
we have a magnet on the fridge that says "Be nice to me. I was born in the 1900s."
It's funny, our roommate brought that in. But it's interesting. I'm noticing like how hard I'm like shit talking myself whenever I look in the mirror. And it's interesting because I'll like bring it up to Allison. Allison's like, I literally don't see anything. But something that I saw that really has impacted me the past couple of weeks is, do you know Julie and Camilla, the influencers? I think they're based out of Norway.
I don't know them.
Okay. So they're married. They just had a little boy, and Julie is now pregnant again. But Camilla is also a bigger body in the fitness space, and she made a whole app called Mila, and she posted this video recently that said and I think it's a trend, I don't think she made it up, but it was like, I woke up today as my 80-year-old self in my 30-year-old body, and I have this thing where I'm constantly tense. Like, I'll lay down in bed and my neck cannot relax. And what I literally did last night, I couldn't fall asleep till like 3 a.m, but I was like, okay, you're 80 now, you get to do it again in your 33, almost 34-year-old body. And my entire body relaxed, and I was able to like talk down my anxiety that I was having that was stopping me. And so like, I think I'm going to start incorporating that daily, like looking in the mirror, being like, I'm 80 in my 33, almost 34-year-old body, and like complimenting my appearance, complimenting how I'm standing, complimenting how I'm doing it, because I'm able to do it again. Right. And it's like, you said it's like changing your brain, things can change your brain chemistry. And it really is. Like, my whole body's relaxing, and I feel like I'm learning how to relax in my body for the very first time. Mm-hmm. So that's an awesome practice.
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
It kind of relates to, we had an anonymous user question that I think kind of goes nicely with this topic, which is they're asking like, what advice do we have about combating how like Instagram says you should look, especially like as like a masc person or as trans masc. Like, what are tips on like basically like Instagram, social media pressure to look a certain way?
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, even like I am definitely in the like trans space now, and even a lot of the trans masc influencers, the fitfluencers, I guess you could call them. Yeah. I mean, they look really good, right? Like, there aren't a lot of people in any demographic who are really visible, who are bigger in any way. And I think it's really hard. I try really hard to be visible for this reason, because I'm like, I am a disabled queer person. I'm a disabled fat queer person, and I own a health and wellness center, and I'm actually really healthy. Like, you know, like for a long time the doctors were like, surely there's something wrong with you, and they did all these tests and they were like, oh, you're really healthy, you're just fat. And I was like, yes.
Surprise. It can work that way.
Yeah, I was like, I know, it's crazy. Yeah. But I mean, the biggest thing, which is the hardest thing, is like self-acceptance and self-love. And I think, again, I think it comes back to community. Like, I really do. I think it comes from like chosen family, and me and my chosen family talk a lot about like, I believe in like being in love with your friends and your chosen family in a platonic way, but like I really do believe in that. And so we talk a lot about like wishing that the other people could see themselves the way that we see them, and like how do we impart that on them. And I think that's really special. And I think being around people who not only love you but understand your queer experience is really, really powerful.
I think what I've learned from like this talk is, instead of like taking, like when we hear the word fitness and we see like an Instagram influencer, we see muscle, we see kind of like a societal expectation on what you need to physically present as, it's more about what goals do you have that fitness will help you like get to. Like, do you want to walk your dog longer?
Yeah.
Like how does fitness play a part in you achieving the areas in your life that you want to thrive in? And how do you build community around that? And how do you use your current community, if you have one, to help you get closer to that thing, rather than I have to look this way to be attractive?
Or like using it as punishment. Like, I just ate 3 cookies while I've been here, I have to go on a run, right? Instead of being like, hey, how dope is that I came and did this podcast and they made me a bunch of cookies and I ate them, right? I also think it's really interesting, these fitfluencers, queer or not. There's this guy, I think his name's Jarrell, and he's this ripped dude. He's tall and ripped and also hot, and he takes these fitness challenges and he tries to do them, and he is, I would say, in every single way stereotypically very, very fit, and he fails at all of them, y'all. He fails at all of them. I've never seen him being able to do one. I think his name's Jarrell, I can't remember now. Anyways, but like, it's just an example, right, of like his body is really well equipped. Like if he was doing a lifting video, for example, you'd be like, oh my God. But he's not, right? Like he's doing these mobility challenges, or he's doing like whatever. And it's a really good reminder that everybody's body is capable of really different things, and they're not meant to do everything. And social media is designed for that like quick hit or that quick like or whatever it is. And it's not always reality. There's also all of these video editing things that you can do now where you can make it appear that you can do something that you might not actually be able to do, right? So like there's all these things, and people make their living that way, and I totally get that, and I'm not trying to knock it. I'm just trying to say that I think it's important that we remember that, one, not everything is as it seems on socials, but two, in order to look the way that these people look, I mean, the nutrition, the hydration, like all of the things that go into looking that way is a full-time job.
Yeah.
It is a full-time job. And I know this is a crazy example, but it came out not that long ago that LeBron James, who's a really famous basketball player, spends over $100,000 a month on supplements.
Every 30 days?
Imagine.
What?
Oh, is that a lot?
Sometimes every 31.
Oh, is that a lot?
Or 28 on a weekend?
Is that a lot of money for y'all? Sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I got
let me
confused.
just grab it on my
Wait,
pocket.
Yeah, sorry. No, I got confused for a second.
Oh my gosh.
God, no, I mean, now that y'all have that reaction, I'm like, is that right? I think that's right, though.
I mean, if it's LeBron James, I'm sure that's...
I mean, he makes a lot of money, right? So, but I'm just saying, like, that's an extreme example, but his body looks the way that it looks, and it requires an insane amount of maintenance and care and all of the things. And so for people who have full-time jobs that don't require a body to look that way or perform, or like whatever the case may be, it's not realistic. Like you even talk about, I can't remember the actors' names, but like the actor who played Thor, or also
like the Hemsworth,
or who was the werewolf guy?
Taylor Lautner,
but also Hugh Jackman.
Oh, Hugh Jackman.
They all talk about, Channing Tatum was like, I will never do a part that requires me to look that way again.
Yeah.
Because like it's just unattainable, it's unsustainable for most people.
Because you should be able to have cookies.
But also like it's also like you have to be insanely dehydrated to get your abs to be able to show that way. So it's a lot of things, right? And I think it's important to remember that as we look at Instagram, because like, wow, I often will look at these people and be like, I want to look like you. Like I really do. I'm also like, one, that's not attainable for me, but two, it's probably not super sustainable for them. And like, are they happy? And when was the last time they ate? And Are they just like downing protein all the time? Like I'm happy that I get to sit here and eat cookies and like have a beer when I want to and like do all the things. And if that means that I can't look like that, then that's just going to have to be okay with me.
Yeah. And the fact that like remembering that you are still queer enough if you don't look like these fit influencers. I feel like that pressure a lot with like people who are more masc. Like, am I gay enough unless I like, if I look like that Momo muscles person, like, do I need to look like that? And just knowing that like, as long as you're feeling good in who you are, people are going to love you and people are going to find you attractive and you're already queer enough. And if a six-pack is not going to be obtainable for you, or that's not like what you want, you don't need to have it. You know?
I think I went through this when I like first opened the business, because I was like, well, I look how I look, so like, you know, this is just going to be what it is. And before I like really got into the queer spaces, I was just like networking with health and wellness people, and none of them looked like me. And it's really powerful now that people are like, I'm here because you look like you look. Like, that's like really, it's a really important part of like, they're like, I don't want a trainer who looks like has the six-pack and all the things. Like, I feel way more comfortable here. And I'm like, okay, cool. And so it was actually a really big mindset shift for me when I first started too, of like, are people gonna respect or want my help because of the way that I look?
I mean, I think you're just like rewriting the narrative and you're showing the possibilities. And I think that's what queerness does. Totally. Queerness is how you've been presented with one way of how to like live your life and how everything needs to be. And we're here to say that that's not true. Yeah. You can live a long, happy life by your own terms. Totally. That's great. Do you want to ask this last question?
Yes. Well, we have one more question and then a game.
And then a game? Okay. Yeah. I was about to pick up my cookie, but I'm about to talk, so I don't need it right now.
Sorry to disrupt the
no, it's time fine. Don't worry
with
about
a podcast. My bad.
How dare you?
This was meant just to be like just a little like.
I was actually told I would just be eating cookies, so I feel a little bit.
I feel like I'm a little bamboozled.
Yeah,
but that's
I do. Fine. It's fine. We'll talk about it later.
Okay, so this final question kind of summarizes everything that we're trying to say in this podcast. But basically, like, what would you say to someone who feels disconnected from their body and is unsure of where to start their journey to body confidence?
Being disconnected from our bodies is really, really common. Whether that's from dysphoria of like, I don't like my chest, I don't want to think about my chest, I don't like my hips, I don't want to think about my hips, like, you know, things like that, to like literal trauma around like, I broke this leg, you know, like there's so many things, but being disconnected from your body is so common. So first of all, you're not alone. I think that's really, really important. Like, if you talk to 10 queer people about this, I think all 10 of them will be like, we know exactly what you're talking about. Which I think is powerful, right? Like, it's powerful to know that like you're not having these feelings alone. I would start, and I think people might have varying opinions on this, I would start by very gently trying to tune into those parts that you're dissociated from. And it's really hard and it's really scary. But it can be something as simple as like, I don't like my chest, so I'm going to spend 2 minutes just like running my fingers over my chest and like feeling what that feels like for me. And I'm going to do that every day for a week. And then I'm going to see how I feel. And then from there's like a lot of other things, right? But we can't move with love if we don't move towards self-love. And so like, if somebody's like, I want bigger pecs, but I'm dissociated from my chest, I'm like, okay, well, we're not bench pressing, right? Like both, we have to work our way up to that, because it can also be really overwhelming to be like, wow, I bench press for the first time. I'm super sore in this area that I never think about. And so I think the biggest thing is a lot of giving yourself a lot of grace with like, it seems really silly to just like rub our fingers across our chest and like see how this feels, and like that feels dumb, and why am I doing this, and why do I need to do this, why can't I just be normal, and like all of those things. So I think a lot of grace and patience. Like, this is a journey. It's beautiful that we get to be on this and that we get to move in ways that feel good, and we get to like learn about ourselves and love ourselves in all of the different forms that we come in. And so I think starting slow, and honestly, I think talking about it is really important, because I would say every client I see, we do some form of this, and we talk about this. I talk about this all day. And so like understanding that you can probably talk to any queer person about this and they'll be like, oh yeah, cool, I hate this part of my body too, this is what I did about it. You know what I mean? I think that can be really powerful, instead of being like, I'm the only person. Like, it can be really isolating to be like, I'm the only person. You can't Google it, right? Like,
Yeah.
all the fitfluencers are like, look at my perfect 6-pack, right? Like, it doesn't, you know. And so I think those two things are my answer.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. Do you want to move into our game?
Let's do it. Are you ready for a game now?
Made up this game called Is This Sapphic? And so we're going to tell you something.
Okay.
And you're going to tell us if you think it's sapphic or not and why.
Got it. Okay. Can do.
Work?
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you need a picture for her, let us know.
Got it. Okay.
Do you want to do the first one?
Sure. The first one is a KitchenAid stand mixer in the classic red. Is it sapphic?
I'm gonna say no, because this to me is very stereotypical woman in the kitchen baking for her mans.
We
See,
love it.
it gives me like that, but also she might be sleeping with the neighbor's wife.
Yeah,
Like-
she's like, did you see I got it in red?
Yes, exactly. And she's like, do you want to come over, Carol? And they're like making a pie and then their hands touch.
My husband's at a dinner. And
Yes,
late.
exactly. He's out of town for business. Like, it kind of gives me that.
Oh my god, it's like 1950s. I'm too afraid to be sapphic, but I
Yes.
am. Hilarious.
That's what it gives me.
Love it. Yeah.
Okay, next.
The next one is a red Solo cup.
Sapphic.
Why?
Sapphic.
Tell us.
Oh my god. Listen to me.
Okay, strong thoughts. We
Listen
love-
to me, because it can go either way, right? Like, it can either be like frat bro,
That's
which
what I was thinking.
obviously, but like, I also, it's giving me like mommy / daddy, like a little bit taller than me and bigger than me, with like a Solo cup, and they like put their arm around me and the Solo cup is like there, and I'm
Okay.
just like, ooh, I feel very like protected and
Ooh.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love it.
Our next one is Barbie from the 2001 animated Nutcracker movie.
I have no idea what that is.
Okay,
Barbie from what?
Barbie from the 2001. There's a reason why you wanted to add this.
It's because for some reason, anytime I went to the library, that's the one I checked out, and I was
So
like,
it's
it has to be
Sapphic.
Sapphic.
Yeah,
So
it has to be
It
sapphic.
has to be
Barbie from the 2001 animated Nutcracker.
Nutcracker. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, envision what that would look
Well,
like.
you were like,
I-
you were saying that the other Barbie movies to you had a different feel than specifically the 2001
Well,
animated.
well, I also know there's like a lore around. I mean, maybe somebody who's listening will know, but like, there's like a lore around also like the Tinkerbell movies. and
Right,
those
I have.
being, like Sapphic.
I think you're right.
Okay.
And I think Barbie as a whole is Sapphic.
Okay, yeah.
I
mean,
just
even the newest movie, they live in community with one another. Like,
and she's like, I don't want to have a sleepover with you, Ken.
yeah, she's like, ew, go away.
She's
Ken.
like literally,
Yeah.
even
She's like,
without
"I'm married to
genitals, I
President
don't
Barbie."
want you.
Yes, you have nothing to offer me.
And I,
sorry. Okay, so maybe Barbie Sapphic.
no, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to do the last one?
the last one is the one and only Magic 8 Ball.
I'm going to say Sapphic because I just moved my partner into their new place and they have 2 of those
Two of
things.
them.
There we go.
And I fought tooth and nail to get rid of them. And they were like, absolutely not. So they have a big one and a little one. And
For big questions and small questions.
obviously.
There we go. That's correct.
But I think it also ties into the very Sapphic, like tarot reading and like chakras and like all of the things. Like I
Sapphics
went,
just want to know the future.
I went and checked on my partner this morning and they were like, I'm gonna pull a tarot card for you. And I was like, what is happening? Why are we like this? So I do think 8 Ball's Sapphic for sure.
For sure.
Rock on.
Incredible. I think I would agree in
Yeah.
the same vein.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And it's kind of weird that I went straight to Sapphic for Red Solo Cup because after I thought about it for like a millisecond, I was like, it's definitely frats is definitely where like my mind should have gone. But for some reason, I just got this like,
No, I love,
I love
it.
that you went there.
yeah, like I was like, men don't exist in my world. So
So you're like, so by that logic, Sapphics only.
yeah,
we love
yeah.
I love it. Incredible. Okay, so how can we find you on social media?
Oh, thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
We are at OutWellness ATX on Instagram, and our website is outwellnessatx.com. Yeah, those 2 places.
And
awesome.
then if you're in Austin, go check out OutWellness. the
Yeah,
gym.
we'd love to see y'all. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
amazing. So thank you all for joining us for another episode of Simply Sapphic. You have watched an entire episode. Thank you. If you would do us a huge favor and rate the show wherever you're at, leave us a comment. That would be incredible. It helps other people find the show. It helps people know that we are helpful and awesome. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day.
Yay, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in.
Be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media,
And share episodes with your friends.
see you next time.